Not satisfied with Abu Bakr's response, we find Ishaq telling us,
Umar jumped up and went to the Prophet. Are you not the messenger of Allah? Yes, Muhammad replied. Are we not Muslims? Umar asked the Prophet. Yes. Are they not polytheists? Umar questioned. Yes, Muhammad said. Then why should we grant what is detrimental to our religion? He replied, I am Allah's messenger. I will not disobey, and He will not allow me to perish.
Muhammad was working for the wrong boss. Within 2 years, the terrible tyrant would be worm food. Allah couldn't, and therefore didn't, save him. Those words still lingering on his lips, Allah's boy denied his God and his calling.
Ishaq and Tabari. The Prophet summoned me and said, Write, in the name of Allah, Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahhim. Suhayl said, I do not know Ar-Rahman or Ar-Rahhim. Should I write rather, in thy name, O Allah? So Muhammad said, Write, in thy name, O Allah. And I wrote it.
It's interesting that the pagan recognized the idol Allah, since he was the head of the Meccan pantheon, but he did not know Muhammad's initial 2 deities because the Prophet borrowed Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahhim from the Yemeni Hanifs. It's also interesting to note how quickly Muhammad was willing to abandon his first gods. Just a decade earlier, he had recited a Quran surah named in Ar-Rahman's honor. It began,
in Quran 55, verse 1, Ar-Rahman bestowed the Quran. He created man, and he taught him speech and intelligence.
Apparently, the lesson was lost on Muhammad. Having abandoned his gods, the Prophet was a breath away from disavowing his ministry.
Ishaq and Tabari. He said, Write, Muhammad, the messenger of Allah, has made peace with Suhayl. Suhayl said, If I testified that you were the messenger of Allah, I wouldn't fight you. Why not write your name and the name of your father? So Muhammad said, Write, Muhammad bin Abdallah has made peace with Suhayl.
This hadith also confirms Muhammad's capitulation.
Bukhari. When the Prophet wanted to perform the Umrah, the Quraysh stipulated that he could not preach Islam. So Ali started writing a treaty. This is what Muhammad, apostle of Allah, has agreed to. The Meccans said, If we believed that you were the apostle of Allah, we would have followed you. So write, This is what Muhammad bin Abdallah has agreed to. The apostle could not write, so he asked Ali to erase the expression apostle of Allah. On that, Ali said, I will never erase it. Muhammad said, Let me see the paper. The Prophet erased the expression with his own hand.
There was nothing Muhammad wouldn't forsake if the price was right. Nothing was sacred. But knowing that Allah's lone messenger renounced his God and his witness, why does anyone trust him? Why believe anything he said, including the Quran? Adding injury to insult, the former
messenger of God
proceeded to renounce his methods.
Tabari. They agreed to terms. Warfare shall be laid aside for 10 years, during which men can be safe and refrain from hostilities.
What are the odds that Muhammad could endure 10 days, much less 10 years, without terrorizing, robbing, or raping someone? I'd wager 1.2 billion souls to 1. The Hudaybiyah armistice went on to say,
During this time, whoever comes to Muhammad from the Quraysh without the permission of his guardian, Muhammad shall return him to them, and whoever shall come to the Quraysh from those who are with Muhammad, they shall not return him to Muhammad. There shall be neither clandestine theft nor betrayal.
The warrior committed to lay down his weapons, which was all the Quraysh wanted anyway. There would be no more attacks on their caravans. Anyone fleeing Mecca for Medina would be returned to their families. Yet the Quraysh were not similarly obliged, and betrayal, the principal tool of terror, was being abandoned. Or so Muhammad said. The question is, could this prophet be trusted? After completing the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, Suhayl, the Quraysh scribe and negotiator, rose and said,
Ishak, you shall go back, leaving us this year, and not enter Mecca. When the next year comes, we will go out, and you shall enter Mecca with your companions, and stay for 3 nights. Your swords must remain in scabbards. You shall not enter with other weapons.
And so it would be. The pilgrimage of 1,000 was jilted at the altar. Thus the warlord abdicated his authority. He turned away from the dilapidated rock shrine that had been the inspiration for this whole sorry affair. It wasn't Islam's proudest moment, although I don't know it was. Ignorant, brutal, and bewildered, the Muslim militants crowded around Mohammed. They knew that their leader had sold himself out, and them along with him. They had come to conquer and to plunder.
Tabari and Ishak. The companions of the Prophet set out, not doubting that they would conquer, because of a vision Muhammad had seen. Therefore, when they saw the negotiations for peace, the retreat, and the obligations the messenger agreed to, the Muslims felt so grieved about it that they were close to despair. Some were depressed to the point of death.
There is nothing a terrorist hates more than peace negotiations. The harsh reality of what he had done soon came to haunt the Muslims.
Tabari. When the Prophet was writing the document, Abu Jandal, the son of Suhayl, came in shackles. He had escaped to the Muslims. When Suhayl saw Jandal, he struck him and grabbed his garment. Muhammad, he said, the pact was ratified between me and you before he came to you. You are right, he replied. Suhayl began dragging his son by his robe. Jandal began screaming at the top of his voice, Muslims, shall I be returned to the polytheists so they can entice me from my religion? This made the people feel even worse. The messenger said, Abu Jandal, count on a reward, for Allah will give you a way out. We have made a treaty, and we will not act treacherously toward them.
The terrorists were chafing at the bit.
Ishak. Umar jumped up, walking beside Jandal and saying, Be patient, they are only pagans, and the blood of any of them is no more than the blood of a dog. Umar held the hilt of his sword close to him. He said, I hoped he would take the sword and kill his father with it, but Jandal was too attached to his father to kill him.
They had just signed a peace treaty, and the future caliph wanted one of his young recruits to murder his own father.
Tabari. When the messenger had finished his pact, he said to his companions, Arrive, sacrifice, and shave. Not a man stood, even after he had said it 3 times. When no one stood up, he went to tent and told her what he had encountered from the Muslims. She said, Do you approve of this? Go out and speak not a word to any of them until you have slaughtered your fattened camel and summoned your shaver to shave you.
He did as she said.
When they saw this, they rose, slaughtered, and shaved, until they had almost killed each other in grief.
If these boys didn't get a terrorist fix in a hurry, there would be hell to pay.
Tabari. Abu Basir was a Muslim confined in Mecca. He escaped and headed to Medina. There the Prophet told Basir, We have given these people our word. Breaking a promise is not right in our religion.
But the Quran says,
in Surah 66, verse 1, Allah has already sanctioned for you the dissolution of your vows.
So who was lying, Prophet or God?